AITA for not making my brother and his fiancée a wedding cake after they refused to pay me? I, 25F, love to bake. It's a big passion of mine and something I love to do as a hobby in my free time. I have an Instagram account that I use to show off my work, which is mainly the cakes I bake and decorate. I make these cakes for family and friends for birthdays or specials occasions. Christmas, Easter, etc. I never charge for these cakes, but I'm always compensated in some way by my family and friends. They'll usually gift me money or a gift card to my favorite restaurants, or make me a dish in return as a thank you. My younger brother, 23M, and his fiancée, 23F, were planning their wedding and asked me a few months in advance if I'd be able to make their cake. For them, this would be my biggest order yet. They wanted a 3-layer cake. Wedding was 75 people, in the flavor of strawberry shortcake as it's their favorite. I was hesitant at first but agreed to make the cake, under the condition that I was compensated for it. I explained to them that this was the biggest order I've never had, and was going to take up a lot of my time, labor and be costly. I gave them a very fair price for a cake of that caliber. They agreed. I also made it clear that I wanted to be paid before the wedding. I provided them multiple sketches of what the cake would look like, made a practice batch of the actual cake so that they could sample, and they loved the cake and approved of everything. Fast forward to last week, 6 days before the wedding. I contacted my brother for my payment as I was going to get started on buying the rest of the ingredients for the cake, minus the strawberries. I was going to do that closer to the date so they could be fresh. He assured me he'd drop off my check the next day. Next day came. Brother went Mia and no check arrived. So I tried to contact him again. Next day came. No check again. I offered to drive to their house and pick up the check. They made an excuse that it didn't work with their schedules. So the day before the wedding I contacted both my brother and his fiancée asking again. They blew up on me telling me that I'm a selfish BTCH for charging them when I don't charge the rest of the family and that they refused to pay, but demanded me to make the cake. I said no, and explained my terms again. They called me a selfish and said I better make the damn cake. I again said no. So the day of the wedding I decided not to attend, due to the amount of disrespect they showed me. Well, my brother, his fiancée and her family are now blowing up my phone, sending me all kinds of nasty messages. My family are trying to stay out of it, but don't think I should have screwed them like that. AITA for not making the cake after they refused to pay me? Info. I was charging them $400. They knew exactly what they were doing. For anyone who is giving you a hard time about it, tell them, you're certainly welcome to make a free wedding cake for them. Quote, NTA. NTA. All I read here is they're calling you a selfish because they have to pay for something that costs a lot of time and money. NTA. And for a 25-year-old woman, you have a remarkably good ability to set and enforce a boundary and not be guilted into doing things. I think many people in your situation would have made the cake out of a sense of guilt and then just been resentful afterwards for being out all the time and money. Then they'd be posting here wondering if they're the for being mad and asking for the money over and over after the fact. Your way or the other way. People would be mad because they're entitled users. You shut it down on the front end. Well done. Your brother and his now wife are entitled but you're definitely NTA. You were upfront about the charges, and $400 for a 75-person wedding cake is pretty inexpensive. They agreed to this and then tried to guilt you into doing it for free at the last minute. The fact that her family is piling on shows the familial level of entitlement going on there. This is the type of thing that would cause me to go either LC or NC. It doesn't sound like you'd be missing out on much. NTA It doesn't matter that you usually don't charge or whether the amount you were charging was reasonable. They agreed to pay for the cake and agreed to the price that you set. If they had a problem with it, they could have negotiated with you or gone elsewhere for their cake. Instead, they waited to push back until the last minute, hoping you would give in under pressure, risk of looking bad. Send variations of this message to anyone who is bothering you, asks about this. When brother and Sil approached me months ago about making their wedding cake, I agreed to make it but told them that I would need to charge based on the size and complexity of what they were asking for. They said that they understood why I was charging and they agreed to the price that I set. Over the last few months I sent them sketches of the design for their approval and even made them a sample cake so that they could make sure they liked the flavor. Throughout this entire process they never once questioned my decision to charge them and confirmed that they would pay closer to the wedding. It was only in the days before the wedding that they told me they refused to pay. I felt this was disrespectful of my time and that they were attempting to manipulate me into making the cake for free. Not having a cake at their wedding was a consequence of their actions. They had months to look into other options if they were unwilling to pay me for my work. NTA. There's a massive difference between baking for fun, small business and a wedding cake for 75 people. That's like seeing someone sketching in a notebook and demanding they paint you an 8-foot-tall photorealistic oil portrait for free, because you haven't charged money in the past. NTA I'm so glad you stuck to your guns. In the future require full payment at least 4 weeks before. No tasting or sketching till it's made. Offer a refund if they don't like what you can offer. Just print out the texts and mail them to all the family. Fuck them all. NTA. At a minimum they need to pay for all the ingredients. It's not cheap, that's a huge cake. And you've likely saved them from paying hundreds from a shop company. Also they agreed to pay you and then behaved like that. 100% NTA. You clearly stated your condition in advance and they agreed to pay you before the wedding. No payment, no product. It's that simple. NTA You told them they needed to pay. They are trying to use you. NTA 1. It's easy enough to rationalize that you depend on that money to be able to buy the necessary supplies. 2. It's an move on their part to agree to pay you and then backtrack and try to weasel out of it. It seems like they were trying pull a fast one and call your bluff. Like they fully expected you to still make the cake even though they had no intention of paying you. And shocked Pikachu face when you stood your ground. The only thing that isn't clear is whether you were upfront that if you didn't get paid, you absolutely wouldn't make the cake. Not that it should need to be said as it's common sense. But they seem to be lacking in that department. This is why doing favors and providing services to family is always a headache. NTA These weren't funfetti cupcakes you were making. Wedding cakes are a whole different ballgame. Bro and Sil need to get a clue. How selfish they are. Absolutely not. In AITA they do not get a service like that for free just because you're family. You told them in advance and $400 for 3-layer cake is such a steal. Go no contact for a while. They should be ashamed. They were planning on stiffing you the entire time. What a bunch of assholes. NTA. Your terms were clear ahead of time. I'm guessing they waited until the last minute to refuse to pay, figuring you'd give in and make it. Anyway, I'm behind you 100%. I would also say your charge was very fair. I didn't pay much less than that for my wedding cake 20+ years ago. NTA. They made an agreement with you. apparently having in mind that they would never pay up and then try to bully you into working for free. Therefore, they tried to steal from you. Good for you for standing your ground. NTA, and your friends and family rate should be 35x higher. I don't make big fancy cakes, but would the day before even give you enough time to shop, make and frost the cake? I wouldn't want to cut it that close. So, even if you responded well to name calling and being ordered around, even if he dropped the checkoff day before, I think he'd be cakeless. Somebody wanted free CAA. NTA. NTA. They agreed to your terms and changed their minds, therefore you were off the hook. NTA. No pay no cake. Only thing I would have done differently is get it in writing that you expect payment by X date for supplies, time, etc., and have them sign it. Then you have it to prove they agreed to the terms and it's their own fault for not paying you.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.